Okay, so we're going to start off our lessons by using trigonometry. Okay, so trigonometry, first of all, is, let's take a look at that word, because we're going to be bounced off an awful lot of words over the next few days. So trigon, that's triangle, I think. I'm no Greek student. And then metry here means measure. So we're basically measuring triangles and various parts in triangles and measuring things about triangles. So that is our what our lessons for the next 3 weeks are going to be based on. Okay, trigonometry. So it's going to be triangles. Now, with every new topic, there's a load of words we need to learn to start. So today we're going to learn one word, and that word is going to be hypotenuse. So some of you probably already know this word from junior cert, and you know that's brilliant. But in case some of you don't, let's just recap. So if we have a right-angled triangle, I'm drawing on a slant here, I'm afraid. So if we have this right-angled triangle here, and their right angle is there, well, we notice that the longest side is always kind of across from the right angle, or it's always opposite the right angle. And that longest side here, I don't know if you can see my mouse or not, but that longest side, that is called the hypotenuse. Okay, so that's a really important side for us in a right angle triangle. So we find the hypotenuse by going to the right angle and then going across from the right angle. So the hypotenuse, that says hypotenuse, by the way, okay, not touching right angle. What else is the hypotenuse not doing? The hypotenuse is longest side, and it's opposite right angle. Okay. Do not use this one here as your way of finding the hypotenuse. Do not use longest side. It is the longest side, but if you have to kind of look at a triangle, you might guess which one is the wrong one if you're thinking about the longest side. Okay, definitely the best thing to do is go to the right angle and then go opposite the right angle, and that gets you to the hypotenuse. So if I was to draw another triangle over here, so I'm drawing another right angle triangle here, and I call this A, B, and C, and my right angle is here. Which side is now the hypotenuse? So hypotenuse is C. And if I was to draw the same triangle and I do something absolutely ridiculous, I say, oh, the right angle is up here now this time. That's the right angle up there. So that's the right angle. I know it's not a right angle, but let's just say it is the right angle. Well, then the hypotenuse this time is down here. So the hypotenuse is always opposite the right angle. Okay, so this guy here is our hypotenuse, because that's the right angle up here. Now that's obviously not a right angle, okay? So do not use this one here. Do not use it's the longest side, okay? The hypotenuse for you guys is the one that's opposite the right angle. So we have to go through the triangle to get to the hypotenuse. And when we do that, we then have the hypotenuse. Okay, so if I was to draw this triangle here, let's try and make a better right angle this time. So I have the right angle up here. So that's my right angle. So the hypotenuse this time is down here. I have to go through the triangle to get to it. So that's the hypotenuse. Okay, so it makes no difference if the triangle is... Oh, can I do something really smart here with my computer? Can I grab this? It makes no difference what the angle is, no, I can't rotate it, sorry. Okay, so that's the hypotenuse. Now let's take a look at why we use the hypotenuse. So I'm just checking my notes. So our next thing we need to talk about is Pythagoras' theorem. Okay, so Pythagoras' theorem. There is a story about Pythagoras that I should tell you, but we'll talk about that when we're back in school. It'll be a bit more interesting. But for now, I don't really want to kind of do too much waffling when I'm not actually looking you in the eyes. So basically, Pythagoras' theorem is a mathematical fact. It's a maths fact. So it's a fact that that in a right angle triangle, angled triangle. So that's what we were talking about over here. In a right angle triangle, the square of the hypotenuse is equal to the sum of the squares of the other two sides. So I'm going to draw a right angle triangle down here. I'm going to call this the right angle, and this is my A, my B, and my C. So I can now talk about the sides of this triangle. So in a right angle triangle, the square of the hypotenuse, so the square of the hypotenuse, that's C squared, because that's our hypotenuse down here, that's equal to the sum, so it's definitely a plus because it's a sum, the sum of the squares of the other two sides. So it's the sum of the squares, so it's the sum of, ooh, sorry about that. Is that a bit too big still? Okay, it's the sum of the squares of the other two sides, so it's A squared plus B squared. So A squared plus B squared equals C squared. So it's nice if you can remember this paragraph here. Okay, however, you really need to get this thing here. You need to be aware of this. Okay, it is in the maths tables, so just be aware of it. So let's take a look at how we would use Pythagoras' theorem. It's really, really useful. If we have a triangle like this, and I say that this guy here is 3, and this guy here is 4, and I want to know the length of this side over here. Oh, and I must make it into a right angle triangle. Job done. So I get a different color pen, and I label up the sides of my triangle. That's a really important thing that you're going to see as we continue doing trigonometry, okay? It's easy to do it now without the labels, but as time goes on, the labels will make life so much easier for you, okay? So we label up the 3, that's side A, and we use lowercase, by the way. Okay, we're going to use lowercase letters for sides. That'll be explained to you in a few days' time when we're dealing with other things in trigonometry. But for the time being, make sure we use lowercase letters to label our sides. Our B is that side there, and that makes the hypotenuse the C, and that's normal. So we can go back into our black biro, and we now have, using this formula up here, we can now say 3 squared plus 4 squared equals, let's call it C squared. So that's 9 plus 16 equals C squared. So C squared must equal 25. So C by itself must equal the square root of 25. We're only going to take the positive square root because it's a distance. So C must equal to 5. So I now know that that distance from there to there is 5. So I've worked that out. Okay. Now I'd like you to do an experiment yourselves. If you have squared paper. If you have squared paper, I might put up a second video of me doing this, but we'll do it on squared paper just so you can actually see Pythagoras happening in reality. Okay, but to be honest with you, I don't need you to be able to draw things accurately. What I really need you to be able to do is use this formula. Okay, that's the important thing here. A squared plus b squared equals c squared. So be comfortable with that formula. Now, that's how to use the formula to find the hypotenuse. We should also be able to work backwards to try and find the one of the other two sides. So let's take a look at an example of that now. So brand new page here. This is my first time using this type of technology. I was using my Apple iPad last year for this job, and I was a bit more familiar with it. So please forgive my messing around with it. Now, let's take a look at a different triangle, and we'll try and make it a little bit more exciting as well. We might put it at a kind of a weird angle. So we're going to take a look at this triangle here. Oh, that's not great, is it? Sorry, I'm drawing on a slant here because of the surface device that I'm working on. Okay, and I'm going to put my right angle up there. So, and I'm going to say that this side here is 13, and this side over here, sorry, I might delete, yeah, no, we're okay. Oh, sorry, that's probably making you seasick looking at that going on. My sincerest apologies. Okay, so that's 13, and that length of that side there is 5, and so I want to know the length of this side here. Let's call it x, traditional. Now, that's my A. Sorry, no, let's hold up a bit here. Okay, now, we're going to find this side here using Pythagoras' theorem. Okay, so we need to label up the sides of our triangle. The most important side for us is the hypotenuse. So we need to work out which one of these three sides is the hypotenuse. So just think about that for a second now. Which one of those three sides is the hypotenuse? Yeah, it's this guy down here, okay? Because we have to go through the triangle to get to it. So it's the side that's not touching the right angle is the hypotenuse. Now, so that's our hypotenuse down here. So the hypotenuse is always labeled up as C. And then it doesn't matter which way we call these. We can call that A, we can call that B, or indeed I could call it the other way around. I could call it, I could call that A and I could call that B. That's probably the same way, was it? It doesn't matter. But the important thing is that we label up our hypotenuse first, which is the letter C. And then we just throw the information into the formula. The formula is A squared plus B squared equals C squared. So we have 5 squared plus x squared equals 13 squared. So that's 169 equals 25 plus x squared. So x squared is equal to 169 minus 25. So x squared is equal to, I know it's going to be 144. So x by itself must equal the square root of 144. So x must equal to 12. Okay, so that's how to use Pythagoras' theorem backwards. So in this lesson, 4 things happened. 4 things. There was what's an hypotenuse. If any of you have learned English as a second language, you might examine my use of "and" there. Is it a hypotenuse or an hypotenuse? It's probably a hypotenuse. four things. What's a hypotenuse? What's Pythagoras' theorem? Ooh, what happened there? What's Pythagoras' theorem? And then Pythagoras forward, and Pythagoras backwards. Okay, so if you could learn those skills today, that would be brilliant. Now, I'd imagine a lot of you already know these skills, okay? But if you can get this thing, if you can spot what a hypotenuse is, be able to find the hypotenuse, if you can write down a squared plus b squared equals c squared, that's the formula we use, and if you know how to use that formula forwards, and if you know how to use it backwards. So in this one here, you're looking for the hypotenuse, and in this one here, the hypotenuse is given to you. So if you can do that, that's basically it for today. So that's your maths for today. I'll check in again tomorrow. I think I must check the time of that staff meeting, but I think I will be having you again tomorrow. Okay, so best of luck with that, guys. Learn those four things. I'll put up exercises on Teams as well, and we'll see how it goes. So best of luck. See you tomorrow.